lounging, son.
Welcome back to the Comic Lounge. My name is Ryan.
And I'm Manny.
And today we're going to be talking about a classic issue of Wolverine. We're talking issue 17 by Archie Goodwin, pencils by John Byrne, and inks by Klaus Janson. A phenomenal creative team. Before we get into it, I just want to remind everybody, if you're not already subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Check out some of the awesome content we have on the channel. We drop videos pretty much every single day. So hit that subscribe button and let's check out this awesome issue of Wolverine, which, by the way, I don't want to say I only picked it up for the cover, but it's what made me pick up this particular back issue when I was going through bins. I mean, just a classic cover. I love the fact that it's just a solid color in the background and then Wolverine coming at you, dude. I mean, it's just fucking visceral. It's
the yellow and red, dude, even in the corner box art, like everything is just like perfect. That duality of the color. Yeah,
dude, it's crazy how good this cover looks with, no background, just Wolverine. And, to me, before we get into it too, like John Byrne and Klaus Janson together, to me, kind of reminds me of like when you put Todd McFarlane and Rob Liefeld together, you get like a different artist. Like that's what I was thinking as I was looking at this. John Byrne and Klaus Janson, I didn't even know that they ever did anything together until I cracked this issue open.
Neither did I. And that's a good analogy with the Rob and Todd comparison, because it's like these two artists, that's like all those artists we just mentioned are fantastic on their own. But when you combine them, it's like alchemy. It's something new gets created.
You're right. I mean, each of them can pencil and ink themselves,
Correct.
Which is crazy. Yeah. But so that's why I think it's interesting to see their styles mesh. I don't know. Lately, I've been having I've always had an appreciation for John Byrne and Klaus Janson, but in particular lately, with me going back and reading a bunch of old X-Men stuff from the Claremont Byrne runs, I just I don't know, dude. I've really regrown my appreciation for John Byrne as an artist. I understand he's he's not exactly the nicest person,
yeah.
In terms of that and stuff he said about artists that I love and artists that you love. The skill is it's unparalleled, dude, what he does. His storytelling. I love this opening page. This beautiful, you get the moon, the stars, the clouds, the color blue is just prevalent all throughout. Wolverine spying through the bushes, getting his prey, to get out his animal instincts. I mean, it just says so much about the character in just one page.
And again, you don't see Wolverine being written this way anymore.
No.
They've kind of taken him away from what I think made him such a cool character, and what attracted all of us as kids to him in the first place was that he was wild, he was different, and they've kind of homogenized him a little bit. I mean, he's not a cool character, but dude, look at that title page.
Right? I know. And the page turn, how it goes from all these blues, almost a calming effect, to this the yellow highlight over him, the red, how the moon gets turned red, and it's just the violence it comes through in that. And Archie Goodwin is a name that I've known, obviously, throughout my comic book reading. I know that you know who Archie Goodwin is and you're familiar with his work, but he's a name that nowadays I don't see mentioned that much, which
he's been all over the place. I know he wrote the he wrote the Star Wars newspaper strip he did with Al Williamson back in the day.
Yeah.
And I want to give a shout out to by the way, now that we're looking and talking titles, to Glynis Oliver again, a colorist that keeps coming up in the past few issues.
How about this? Somebody commented on our video that we did. I think it was Wolverine #1, and they're like, "Oh, it's Glynis Wein." And we had called that out in I believe it was Hulk 181. When we called that out, so Glynis was married to Len Wein at one point.
Oh, okay.
So that's the same colorist. Yes.
This must have been before.
No, it's after.
Oh, damn.
They were married. Okay. I bbelieve they were married before this.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. Well, anyway, she's fantastic, man. I mean, look at the, like you said, the page turn works for many reasons, but the color is what sells it at the end.
Oh, for sure, dude. I mean, I just think it's absolutely phenomenal, the art in this book. I haven't read every issue of this Wolverine series, but I'd be interested to see if were they doing this a lot, because he's credited as breakdowns and finishes. So I'd be curious to see what these pages look like, because saying breakdowns, I mean, I was wrong for saying pencils, but when you see breakdowns as opposed to pencils, like maybe they're not as tight, and maybe that's why when you see Klaus Janson, it feels like the art leans a little more towards his sensibilities than it
Yeah,
does John Byrne's. And I like this little backstory, dude. Like you see him like talking about Lord Shinjin, like when he went after the clan Yoshida and Mariko, and he was they told him he's like nothing but an animal and stuff like
yeah,
that. And you know, he felt very, I don't know, I can't think of the word, but I've been reading some old X-Men too during this period, and the issue where he was supposed to get married to, you know, that one where it's like you're invited to issue
to
172. Um,
yeah,
so it's just interesting to see that it leans more towards this, like where he doesn't necessarily feel human. He's almost like, I don't want to say embarrassed by his animal instincts and his animal behavior, but he tries to keep it separate. And that's what we're seeing here. Like, you know, he's
yeah,
off to his own. Storm comes in, which, by the way, I love this costume of Storm's. I think it's fucking
yeah,
awesome. And like, she kind of cools him down with the rain. This is like during the Australia, when they're in the outback, the X-Men.
yeah.
So he's like off, like hunting this warthog, comes back. I love Gateway too.
Oh,
How
I
he's
love seeing Gateway, man. That was a surprise to see him in this issue, and like I love everything about him, the way his power works, the way he uses that spinning stone to make these portals. Like, what a cool era of X-Men.
dude, it's been fun reading. I was actually, you
Yeah.
know, gonna ask you, there's this issue with Wolverine where he's turning into the Brood, and he's like, it's that blue and like purplish cover. I was gonna ask you if
Yes.
you wanted to talk that one because like that one just like,
Yes, of course.
all right, all right. That next week. That'll be our recording next week.
Yeah.
I dig this too, dude. Like he's, you know, now he's completely fucking basically naked in his. I can't tell if he is or not. It's hard to see, really. I don't think it shows it at all in these. Like it looks like it could just be shadow. I don't know. I'm one. I can't decide what he is here, but he definitely goes full animal, and then he's like, you know, more civilized with his outfit, and he's retaking the Patch identity. Which this, when we went through issue one, that was the first time he became Patch, and you
Yeah.
know, going through the streets of Madripoor. And I love this era of Wolverine. I love like the barroom brawls when he gets into
Yeah.
that.
Oh yeah. Dude, yeah.
You know, talking about taking on Roughhouse. He's soft as a mountain, a big mean mountain, one with a counterpunch, you know, and he feels like he can kind of go full bore with this dude because he can take it.
Yeah, he can let loose a little bit, because like we said earlier, like Wolverine was like a man, like like almost torn in half back in the day. He was struggling with this like animalistic side of him, and like this more than the pressure to conform more with the X-Men and live a civilized life. And that's what made him such an interesting character, was this duality he had.
Yeah, I mean, this is the Wolverine I like the best, if I'm being completely honest. I not to say that I don't like Wolverine now. I mean, there's some current stuff that I really dig, but again, I've mentioned it too, like the mystery of him is kind of exciting, you know, like that you never knew what new piece of his past you were going to learn about, and I feel like that's kind of gone from Wolverine.
Yeah,
Even though there's still a lot of room to explore his past because I mean, he's been around since the late 1800s, right? Like, there's so much you could uncover, but I feel like the writers they've leaned away from that, and maybe it is because like now we know his real name, now we know the first time he popped the claws, now we know all this other stuff, so there's less room to kind of expand on that, and I don't know, I miss that stuff about Wolverine. I like the Man of Mystery thing that he had going.
yeah. And I love these Madripoor stories. I know that they recently sort of took them. They did a miniseries like Madripoor Nights and all that,
Yeah,
but it was always a pleasure when you would come across one of these stories in the Wolverine series, or even in X-Men whenever they visited Madripoor. Like that seediness, like that, like underbelly, the crime. You know how he's involved with like some of the criminal underground. He's known as kind of an enforcer. Like, it just really fleshed out the character and gave him so many layers.
oh, totally. I totally agree with you, dude, on that. I mean, it's where he gets to kind of let out his grimy side, you know?
Yeah, good call. Yeah, dude, this art is so sick.
Oh, it's so good, dude. And then we get this fucking mystery guy in the shadows.
I like the costume that like Tiger is wearing, and like all these characters, all these colorful, like interesting people that he knows in Madripoor,
Yeah.
like that are part of his extended cast, and like it's so different from the life he has with the X-Men, which is what made it so fucking awesome.
like the Japanese culture, why is he drawn to it, right? Like that's something that I kind of always dug because Japanese culture, samurai culture, right? It's so opposite of being animalistic
Correct.
that
Yeah.
it's kind of, I like that gravitates towards it in a not in a way, I'm trying to think of the word, so that
I
he
mean,
can
maybe
suppress that, and kind of
exactly.
learn
Yeah.
a
It
way
might,
to
it might,
calm
it
down.
might be a coping mechanism, you know,
Yeah.
a way to sort of like be able to live with this side of himself
Mm-hmm.
and not succumb to like all the impulses that he feels. Because remember, like when he was created to be Weapon X, they were encouraging that savagery. They were releasing him into the wild, and he was fighting animals and allowed to go feral and live in the wild like an animal.
Yeah. And I love, dude, this like these backroom deals, dude, with the fucking Japanese underworld. And
Yeah.
like even this line where he's like, if ever there was a national board balance tipper on the job, he's already hard at work in your principality. Wait, you mean, of course, the man Patch, yes. And what's also interesting is that at this moment in time with X-Men, they're considered dead, right? The
Yeah.
world doesn't think they're alive. So he's able to not come across as Wolverine when in reality, let's face it too. Who the fuck else has that hairstyle? But I can suspend disbelief for comics.
Yeah.
I'll allow it. But I mean, in reality, like how many short, fucking stocky guys with that hairstyle are there? But it's cool that he's able to kind of go underground and still be out in the world with his patch identity instead of having to stay kind of trapped in their headquarters, which is what it kind of feels like as I'm going back reading those X-Men issues. They don't often get out. Like they go, they strike, and they come back. How
I
about these
also love
Star
all these
Trek boys,
characters.
dude?
Yeah, dude, I was gonna mention them. Like that's probably one of the worst of the movies,
Yeah.
but damn, I love seeing ads like that in comics and how they used to try and pump out those Star Trek figures for everything.
You can get all 5 figures for 99.75 and a free poster. Those figures are
Sounds like a
probably they
deal to
probably
me,
charge
bro.
you $100 right now for a figure.
Fuck yeah, especially those.
Then we get this. I love this Wolverine waking up, enjoying the sunrise.
You know, he just got laid. You don't see that too much anymore.
No, you definitely don't, dude.
You see her wearing a patch, smiling like he got down to business and delivered the goods, bro.
But see, like the subtlety of that, right? Like you don't need to
Yeah,
show what happened, dude. That's great storytelling to me, where you
correct.
can
Yeah,
have those moments without showing the moments. And like just
yeah,
by this one panel, followed by this, like obviously he woke up, he had a good night, but then you see why he had the good night. Amazing, dude. Amazing.
I love that line, cocaine, when he smells it, and like this being like the '90s, you know, like and true like '90s action movie vibe. Like it's all about fucking crack and cocaine deals and like drug
Dude,
deals.
that's what I thought about too, man. I
Yeah,
don't know what it is. I don't know if I'm like subconsciously gravitating towards comics like that, but we've been talking about a lot of comics where we're like saying this feels like a 90s action movie, or this feels like, a John Woo movie. I forgot what book we were talking about when we said that, but there's so much of that in a lot of the stuff we've been talking about recently.
yeah, yeah. And I mean, I'm sure that that stuff was being absorbed by the creators. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
like our artists love going to other mediums for inspiration, and like that was when all those action movies are starting to come out and and be part of the popular culture.
I love this dude. Not in like we haven't even seen the dude in costume. That's
No,
that's that's the best part too. I love seeing Wolverine just going to town, like that's why like when people said in the X-Men movies like he wasn't in costume, it's like, well, Wolverine's done a lot of his fucking adventures and missions not in a costume. Like he's so
yeah,
much more than just Wolverine from the X-Men. He like has so many other adventures. And like the fucking just look at the way they do the muscles here too, dude. I mean,
yeah, he's like shredded.
so artistically sound here, dude. And like
Yeah,
the action, the way you move from panel to panel, he jumps, lands there. Then we see him like super tiny about to jump into the truck. And he's
yeah, that's
just
a good detail. Yeah,
so good, dude.
again, great coloring.
Should have known that in Magipore, nothing's ever that simple.
Yeah, there's like I love the writing by Goodwin is really like kind of like hard boiled, so it has sort of like a detective fiction vibe too. Like there's so many things being mixed together to make this story.
Yeah, I'm telling you, dude. Every time I've been going through these old issues where I just have like one offs, I don't have the ones before or after. I always I keep thinking to myself, I'm like, maybe I'll get a little bit less new comics. Maybe I'll just try to fill in the gaps here.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah, right.
I mean, this is probably the smallest my pull list has been in years, dude. I'm down to like
Yeah.
12 titles, and
Yeah, I've been thinking of paring some down too because we all live on fixed incomes in this fucking shit economy we have.
yeah. I
So,
mean, not to say that I'll probably stop buying comics. Like,
oh, never. But
I haven't dropped the video, but I recorded a haul video. It really, as I was doing it, it reminds me like, okay, I guess that's why my wife's always pissed at me for the packages that come, because like, you don't think about it when you click order, so.
Oh no, yeah, dude, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
But and then what's really crazy and out of left field is we come to New York and we
Yeah,
see fucking Daredevil. So this
yeah.
cocaine trade all goes back to here as we see this dude jumping jumping out of a crack house. This was a pleasant
Uh,
surprise, dude, to see
it
Daredevil.
was. I was like, holy shit, Daredevil when I was reading it. I love the narration here. Hammer Cody, a once promising heavyweight, reduced to fighting for his next fix.
Oh,
This day he won't. He won the biggest fight of his life and left the dealers who gave it to him dead. The price: multiple gunshots and stab wounds, as well as his sanity, none of which slowed the rampage that followed. So the dude's like fucking high as fuck. Like still, he's been shot. He's been fucking beat up, but he's like on a fucking crack like PCP bender.
yeah, dude. I mean, look, and this is what? This is 89, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I said 90s, but like, yeah, this is probably
Yeah.
89, 90.
So yeah, this is 89 is what it says on the cover. So I mean, this is when like the cocaine, the crack stuff was super prevalent. I think in New
Yeah.
York at the time. I think the heroin stuff too was like that was late 70s, early 80s.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just loved like the choreography here of Daredevil fighting this dude
Oh,
that's like all cracked
this
out.
page is amazing. The choreography is great. Like the way the panels are rounded out, it makes everything so fluid. I mean, what a great example of a fantastic fight page.
Yeah, dude. I really like, what we should do one day is find like a really good choreographed comic from like the 80s or 90s, right? And then compare it to something that we see now. That would be a fun
Yeah.
episode to do
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
we're constantly calling that out on old comics, and I don't know that we do as much on some of the newer stuff. I mean, I'm not
Yeah.
to say that it's not done, but I feel like maybe it's not as, you know, or it just
It's
doesn't
just
stand out to me
different.
as much. I don't know. Yeah, I would love to compare and contrast that stuff. But look at this dude, that fucking double fisted, like he knocks Daredevil to the ground from behind, and then the the crunk as he, oh my god, as he slams his head into the ground, dude. And then the
So
cops,
good.
dude, the fucking cops, like he has the gun drawn, but he just fucking dies from a drug overdose.
His heart just stops and he falls over.
Oh, dude, that look on Daredevil's face, he's dead. I know, but why? And then we go
I love the
back.
Daredevil of this era too.
Oh, it's a great era for Daredevil for sure, dude. I mean, I love that Daredevil run. All through the 80s is just fantastic. But like Ann Nocenti, dude, when she and her and John Romita Jr. together, that's another
Oh,
one where
that's
we should just talk. Even if we're just talking one issue of that run, it's so good.
I'm super down, dude. That
Yeah.
was like the Daredevil that I read. I was a little late to the game to catch, the Miller Mazzucchelli stuff, but like I was all in when Anna Sensi was writing it.
Yeah, it's funny because I read all of Miller's stuff before I ever picked up a Nocenti issue. It was a blind spot for me. Love this here too, dude. What is
This
this?
villain is awesome too.
Yeah, I can't remember his name, dude.
At first, I thought it was Silvermane, but it's
So did
not.
I, but I know it's not. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you see Roughhouse is just fucking trapped there. And I like the way he like has his torture tools that he could just like switch out onto his hand. That's pretty fucking cool.
Yeah, it reminds me of something like Marathon Man or like those old movies where like someone's getting ready to torture someone and showing
Yeah.
them the tools.
And then we get the last page. This is the first time we see him in costume, which is pretty dope. And I love that he's just crawling along the fucking chains going into the ship.
And I love this Wolverine costume. It's like the figure I had, like the classic, the Secret Wars one. So I used to adore that figure, and I love this costume. I know everyone loves the blue and yellow. That's a great one too. But I don't know.
This
This
is
one
my favorite.
hits. Yeah, I think so too, man.
To me, it just makes more sense for the type of character he is. The
Yeah.
colors are a little more stealthy than this bright
Yep.
yellow and blue.
Yep.
Which he doesn't need to be stealthy because like he's got his healing powers. He's basically indestructible. But I dig this color scheme. Yeah, I just love this issue. It's such a great panel to end on. He's like, it's gonna try to stop this cocaine trade. Roughhouse's trap. I think he's mentioning Silver Samurai in here too. When he says that would be samurai instead of animal, or no, he's talking about himself. Cutting Edge. What a great letters page name too, or letters column page.
Oh yeah, dude, the logo and everything.
And I
I love
always
what he
try to
says. I love what he says at the end. That day may not come because of a sound in the air, one I've never heard. The
yeah,
sound of rough houses.
so
Great
good,
ride.
dude. What a
What a
great
great
issue,
issue,
man.
man. Yeah, I'm so glad you brought this one up. You know, I've never read this issue. I've seen the cover because that image makes the rounds. You know, like you see that image a lot in places. People post it like because it's such a striking cover and done so simply. But like, I mean, the issue itself is fantastic, and it's probably one of the best Wolverine issues I've read.
Agreed. I think it's definitely like shot up there for me.
Oh yeah,
There's so many great like one-offs in this Wolverine run. Like especially like Larry Hama and Mark Silvestri do some good ones too. But yeah, super stoked that we talked about this one today. It's been sitting in my read pile for a while, and I don't know what made me pull it out, but I'm glad I did. I highly recommend it. Go pick it up however you can, whether it's in trade or single issue. And while you're at it, make sure you like, follow, subscribe, hit the bell icon so you're notified every time a new vid drops. And on that note, we're out.